This is the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruwitch. Make yourself comfortable and fasten your seatbelt. Tom and his guest are about to share powerful stories, trade business building insights, and have a few laughs. Tom created this podcast to help you captivate prospects and inspire them to act so you can get more clients quickly and easily. That's what powerful storytelling is all about. That's what this podcast is all about. So let's get this party started. Here's your host, Tom Ruwitch.
Hello and welcome to the Story Power Marketing Show. My name is Tom Ruwitch, and today's episode is called How to Turn Sparks of Purpose into Brushfires of Impact. My guest today is JR Rennie. JR is the founder of a nearly 40-year-old business software company, but his journey took a powerful turn in 2015 when he chose to pursue a deeper calling. That shift led him to found BrushFires Ministry, a ministry that helps Christians discover their God-given purpose and destiny. Throughout his professional life, JR has had a gift for building unified teams and helping people play to their strengths. Now he channels that gift into a system of tools and assessments that help individuals and the organizations they're part of uncover what they do best and how they can serve with authenticity and passion. JR, welcome to the Story Power Marketing Show.
Oh, Tom, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. And I'm really excited about our conversation, and hopefully will be of real benefit to your listeners.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I know it will be because we spent some time getting to know each other prior to today, prior to this moment when we're recording this episode.
Right.
And I love your story. And that's where I'd like to begin. Tell us the story. You'd been running this business for a long time, and tell us what was going on as you got to 2015 and the turn your life took.
So the software company RLA was established in 1987 between myself and another gentleman that we had both worked at the same company. And we specialized in wholesale distribution, manufacturing, accounting software, anything that with a significant inventory or counting or pricing or commissioning type of situation. And the software was really well written. It was able to sail through Y2K, and it was doing quite well. And I was quite happy with my income and all that. And at the end of 2015, a situation with an employee came to head where we wound up at the end of 2015 experiencing our largest loss ever. To the point when I looked at 2016, I go, we can't sustain this another 6 months. Something has to change. So I did the natural, let's look at our expenses. How can we cut? Did all those cuts. Yeah, that's still not going to cover this loss that we experienced in 2015. And then it was like, all right, well, the only other thing I could cut was my salary. So, and a lot of business owners do this. Employees, you may not know this, but if there's a rough economy, I know of multiple business owners that will stop taking a paycheck so that their employees can still get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. This is common in small businesses. So I did that starting in 2016, and my immediate course of action was, okay, how do I replace this? And because of my unique skill set of what I had gathered in nearly 40 years, I figured, all right, I'll go out and do some private consulting, and went out there and did some Google ads and Facebook ads. And Tom, I didn't get a whiff of an opportunity. I didn't get a single call, a single click, single anything. And after about pouring $5,000 down a black hole with Google and Facebook, it was like, all right, this isn't working for me. And I was really frustrated because that's not God. That's not how God has worked in my life. He's always provided. He's always given me a clear indication as to, how I was going to provide for my family. So in May of 2016, I'm sitting in a chair and really frustrated with God. And I just said out loud, I know you're behind this. What do you want? I didn't hear him chuckle, but I kind of think he might have. And it was about 5 months later that an acquaintance came up to me and says, "Hey, I train people on interpreting the results of psychometric assessments for businesses and for counseling. I think you would be really good at this." That's how it was approached, and he wanted me to spend all this money. And my immediate reaction was no. I haven't had a paycheck now in 9 to 10 months.
Yeah.
Why in the world am I going to spend these thousands of dollars with you to do this? It makes no sense. I'm a programmer. I've got this consulting background. This makes no sense. And I went home and I had this tug from God that said, do it. So then I had to wrestle with God. God, this makes no sense. I don't understand how this applies to anything. And he just gave me another prod, do it. At that point, he had kind of broke me down. It was like, all right, you're slamming all these other doors that I'm going in. You're telling me to go through this door that makes absolutely no sense. Fine. So I called the guy back the next day, negotiated a better price because I am a business owner, and had my wife do it with me. And I was in the training for about 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I'm going, this is accurate. For those that don't know what psychometric assessments are, they are a very small sliver of set personality assessments that are out there. Ones that you would have heard of would be like DISC or Myers-Briggs or Gallup's strengths. This was done by a private consulting group, and so they were uniquely their own.
Mm-hmm.
But it described myself in ways that I could easily articulate to other people, immediately understand. And then because I had the benefit of doing it with my wife at the same time, it nailed her the same way. And I don't have any kind of psychology or psychiatry type of background. So there wasn't any, training that I had leading into this, but it was such a natural language that I was able to pick it up easily. Fast forward 2017, at one point, God gives me the epiphany. Yeah, this has been used at Coca-Cola, IBM, Lucid Technology, Clorox, all these multinational organizations. I want it for the church. I was like, okay. A byproduct of this program, of our program, is you come up with a purpose statement. And my purpose statement reads like this: I must strategically lead a gifted team to embrace the power of their God-given design for long-term positive results. Three major sections. I must strategically lead. Okay, I've been leading ever since I was, a teenager. It's even when I don't want to lead, I get put in that position because, there's no qualified leadership. Getting people to embrace the power of their God-given design. All right, well, that is within the context of the church. And God had already told me that he wanted it for the church. All right, you just introduced me to these assessments. All right, so I see how I'm going to pull that, figuring out what their God-given design is. But how am I supposed to get this into the church? This isn't in the church. This has been in the corporate world. Nobody's doing this. And then it was like, I guess I got to write the curriculum.
Yeah.
And Tom, as soon as I made that mental agreement that I would write the curriculum, God gave me the name of the ministry. It was just BrushFires Ministry. So that's where it came from. I know it was in my head first. I was the first person to speak it out. But it was like, yeah, this is what you're going to do. This is what I created you to do. And you're going to call it this.
Yeah.
And I've been so deeply involved and committed to this ministry from that day forward. And God continues to blow my mind with things that he's doing.
Yeah. I love the story, JR. And, we spoke earlier before we turned the cameras and the recorders on about this word ministry, and how those who run businesses, whether they think of themselves this way or not, they are they are serving, they are in some way helping their customers or their clients move from a starting point to a place forward, a better place. And they're guiding them through that. They're helping them understand where they are now. They're helping them understand where they can go. They're helping them enable that journey
Right.
with products and services or lessons. Certainly, it's what coaches or consultants do, but it's even what you as a software vendor were doing,
Yes,
moving
absolutely.
from a place of chaos and disorganization and inefficiency to a place of relief and calm and organization and profit and so forth. Here's how. And
Yes.
and so the very, very interesting thing to me about your story and what you've done is that we are all in some form of ministry and discovering, using tools that you have, how to do that for whatever your purpose is: advancing a church, advancing your life, advancing a software company. The analogies are still at play. And that's why anybody in our audience today, whether you are a faithful Christian, whether you're a Jew, a Muslim, an atheist, you still can, I hope, relate to the notion of finding passion and purpose, recognizing that you as a business person are here to serve others, and that the kind of work that JR is doing can instruct how you might approach it as well.
Yeah, I think we need to take our preconceived ideas of what ministry is and just cast them out the door. I
Mm-hmm.
think for those people in the church, ministry are the people that are performing on stage. They are
Mm-hmm.
the preachers, they are the missionaries, they are the worship leaders, and then maybe those that are working in children's ministry. That's not what ministry is. Ministry is the conduit of how God works through your life to have a positive impact on somebody else's life. So
Mm-hmm.
your ministry, my ministry as a business owner, was to provide for my employees, even if that meant for me to stop taking a paycheck so that they could still get a paycheck and be able to pay their bills. That
Yeah.
was part of my ministry. Part of my ministry was, as you rightly said, was to take disorganized, inefficient organizations and to make them run much more efficiently, and to be able to help a business owner realize those dreams. So ministry is, how do you have a positive impact on somebody else's life? The way a purpose statement works, and I already quoted you mine. There's two commonalities to every purpose statement, and after that, they're all different. They all begin with the words "I must." From my perspective as a believer, if the God of creation created you for this purpose, then you are only going to achieve joy and fulfillment by being obedient to what he's called you to do. Okay? That's the one commonality with all purpose statements that our ministry produces. The other one is, how do you serve your fellow man?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a counselor? Are you a teacher? Are you a person that is providing? There are people that we refer to as kings and priests.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a small group of people. Priests are. I'm at this point in my life. I am now a priest. I have a vision that God is saying, this is what I want to do through you. But it is equally a ministry for those people that are business owners that are making money in a God honoring way, that by selling product or whatever it is that they're doing, that is then taking that money and rechanneling it back to the church, rechanneling it back into ministries. I mean, ministries have expenses. Okay. So it is just as much of a ministry for a Christian business owner to go out there and have a reputation for integrity. And this is true about all business owners, but to have a reputation of integrity and honesty and solid character, and to be able to deliver upon your promises and so forth, get paid for that, and then funnel that money back to something that's good and worthwhile and God honoring. So ministry is not what we have a knee-jerk reaction to it. It's
Mhm.
God working through his giftings that he's given you to accomplish a positive change in somebody else's life.
Yep.
Be a social worker, be a pastor, be a teacher, be whatever it is you happen to be.
Yeah, and that idea that you shared, that every person is created to serve humanity in some fashion, that's such a critical idea. We were talking about it earlier about marketing and how some people are uncomfortable with marketing and with sales. Yeah, and I wasn't gonna say you're
Hey,
among
listen,
them until you.
I'm gonna own up to it. I love people like you that are good at what you do.
Yeah,
And it's yeah, but I agree.
but we had a really fascinating conversation about that, because you said to me, Tom, um, I'm just not that comfortable with marketing, and my response was, the people I meet who are uncomfortable with marketing are are not viewing marketing as ministry in the way that we just defined it. When you're
Agreed.
able to turn it into, oh, wait a minute, I have a purpose, and my purpose is to help transform lives, help serve, help carry someone from a beginning state to a better state. And I'll be the guide, and my products and services will be the means by which they achieve this transformation. Then the act of helping them see the possibility of that journey, the value of the product and the service, is just actually sort of the first step in the ministry. It
Yeah.
it's it's an act. It is an act of serving, and
No, I agree with you. In fact, I'd like to. I know there's people that are going to be listening to this conversation and go, boy, that guy is really on fire for his faith, and he's on fire and joy filled and is really committed to doing this and so forth. That's part of what God has done in my life. My family is from Philadelphia.
uh-huh.
Okay, we are some of the most cynical human beings that God has ever created. In
Yeah,
fact, if there's the word it's cynicism in the dictionary, it's going to be some guy from Philadelphia as the poster child of
who
what that
booed
looks like.
Santa Claus,
Yeah,
right?
we don't right, we don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
So when I was young in the church, and I'm seeing these Christians that are like joy filled and acting like I am now, my very first thing was they're faking it. So I would
Mm-hmm.
sit there and observe them from a distance, and I would say, God, they're not, man. They're legit. And it was that recognition that that joy that was in them was legitimate that
Yeah.
really began to bug me about where I was in my faith and what was going on. And what I found was that if you want to be joy filled, like hopefully that's what people are seeing now, and that's not what I was before, you have to be obedient to the call that God has on your life.
Mm-hmm.
That version of JR that said yes to writing the curriculum, said yes to taking the psychometric assessment training programs, that is the first steps of me getting to a place where I am now joy filled.
Yep. Yep.
Even though the success of the software company has currently dwarfed the financial impact of the ministry that we've had right now, and the financial benefits of all that was much more measurable. I am more joy filled now than I have ever been in my life.
Yep.
And it is the outcome of doing what it was that God called me to do.
Yeah.
So I
But
want people to understand that there is a reason, a a benefit to doing what God has created you to do, not only in making positive impact in other people's lives, but man, it changes you. I've been sharing this story recently. One of our team members went out and got a bunch of assessments that we sell as part of the our packages because she wanted to give them as gifts to her family, her parents, and so forth, to find out and understand them better. And then she got the results back, and she didn't understand them, and so she asked me before one of our workshops, can you answer some questions? I said, no problem. So I answered all these questions. She looks at me, Tom, and she goes, JR, thank you. You're so kind and gentle and patient. My reaction was, who's she talking to? I have never been described by any other living human being as kind and gentle and patient.
uh,
Just the opposite.
yeah.
But that's what has happened to me as by being obedient to that call in my life. And
Yeah.
that's worked for everybody.
That notion about being obedient to that call.
Right.
I think that this is something everybody who's watching or listening to this episode can embrace, regardless of what spiritual path they've chosen. Okay. And you have described it in your life as following God's call. Someone
Sure.
else may describe it some differently, but the lesson and the importance of the lesson is still, it's about discovering your passion and your purpose. And I think you, based on the story that you've told me, you probably can relate to this. I've met so many people who have uh, climbed the achievement ladder. They're making money. Profits have rolled in, sometimes up, sometimes down, but they're a success, and yet they're not filled with that joy. And that it's that lack of passion and purpose, and that it's that lack of passion and purpose that is missing in their lives. And so
Let me
whichever,
kind of
yeah, go ahead.
let me go ahead and address that from a couple of perspectives. The world will sell you a lie that, if you make lots of money, you're going to be happy. Okay. I'm sorry. That's not, you will be able to buy more things. You'll be able to live in a nicer house, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be happier. I mean, you could be having a really nice reservation at a restaurant and go out to that restaurant and you take this first few bites and it's the best food that you've ever tasted. That meal's gone. That you were happy for a few minutes and now it's gone. One of the things that kind of struck this at home, this was about 2015. I was at this sales conference and the guy was doing this vision board stuff, to motivate people. You want to look at the things that you're dreaming about. And his deal was, houses and cars and jewelry or whatever. And none of that materialism was like, it wasn't making me wanting to aspire to work harder or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at that, and when the stark realizations came to me was, you don't dream anymore. You don't aspire for anything anymore. You are operating out of duty, responsibility, and obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And that realization just struck me. It was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
all my energies are going to are not producing happiness. They're not producing joy. I'm not dreaming for something better. This sucks.
Mm-hmm.
This is not who I am. The timing was perfect because God was getting me ready for this, change in my life. But man, it was like one of those wake up calls where you're going, I got to find something else that will give me
Yeah.
some significance in life. We talked about joy is the outcome to be obedient to your calling. Let me rephrase it to you another way. The very first time I kind of heard this message, it was in 1980. I was a, a junior programmer, and I was working at a place called County Financial in Brea, California. And I was installing software and working with this guy, and the owner of the finance company. And we got into talking about business. And he goes, the best advice I can give you about business is figure out what you do well, do that, and then hire other people to do what you don't do well. Well, that's very similar. If you believe that God created you for a specific purpose and gave you interests, abilities, and values, it's the same thing. Figure out what you do well. Stay in your lane. The people that do accounting and you don't like doing accounting, hire them. In my case, the people that can do marketing and promotion really well, hire them. It's like you figure out what you're good at and then stick to that. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that initial, I remember, by the way, in that same conversation, I can remember telling him, I think his name was Gene. I go, Gene, I never want to have my own business. There's no way I ever want to deal with employees. 6 years later, I was starting my own company. So,
All right.
so also be careful whatever using the word never. I'm never gonna.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Those words come back to haunt you.
Indeed. So JR, if somebody is interested in learning more about the assessments and the services and everything that you bring to the world, where should they go and what will they find?
Well, thank you for asking that question. By the way, these assessments were developed under private developments. And so they're called the YMI assessments. And they are certified psychometric assessments. But they were developed and used in, as I said, multinational corporations like IBM and Coca-Cola and so forth. They are agnostic by nature. There's no Christianese in the actual psychometric assessments themselves. So we have developed this as a white label product. So if there are counselors or coaches or businesses that do not share our faith, but want to use these same assessments, we can license those assessments to them, and we'll get the same results that were used when they were at Coca-Cola and IBM and all those other multinationals.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, JR, because I have tried throughout this conversation to say to people in my audience, hey, listen to this guy. Don't just, if you're of a different faith, if you're not feeling the connection around Christianity, there's still everything that he's saying is still so valuable and transcends the particular spiritual lane that you're in. Now, in your case, JR, it's through your God and your faith and so forth that you have found your path to passion and purpose and discovered your calling. But the notion of discover your calling and these assessments can help you do that, that's agnostic. So I'm really glad you said that, because everybody who's listening here today, if that makes sense to them, might have a reason to call JR and do business with him.
Yeah, so there's these assessments were developed in the 80s, and of course they're not going to be used from a faith-based perspective at IBM or Coca-Cola and so forth. So the actual wording and terminology in these assessments, as I said, are agnostic. If people are interested in that part, just the assessments, and they don't want any of the faith-based stuff, that is still a product that we make available, and we can license that to you. Go to reallivingassessments.com, reallivingassessments.com. For those people that it was while I was being taught this from a secular perspective, my training was done from a secular perspective. God gave me the epiphany that he wanted me to use these secular assessments in ministry. That is where this all got bridged together. That is brushfires-digital.com. So the BrushFires Ministry is brushfires-digital.com. That's our teaching site. That's where people can go to be able to, register, do the assessments, do our training videos, get our books, learn about our discipleship framework system, all that, get coaching, get counseling from a Christian perspective. If people simply want to learn about our assessments or would like us to apply the assessments in their organization, Real Living Assessments is the same secular version that I was taught back in 2016, and has been used in the corporate world for decades now, and has a proven track record.
Terrific. So those links are going to be in the show notes, and I know from having gone to your ministry website that you offer a lot of free resources and courses and other tools that look very, very valuable. And so I encourage anyone who has connected to this idea of finding your passion and purpose and discovering your calling, regardless of whatever faith journey you're on, there's something to find on these websites. JR, any parting thoughts?
For those of you that are interested, I am not an evangelist. I am not trying to proselytize any of you to the Christian faith. That is not my heart. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. If He's calling you and you have questions about faith, feel free to call me. If you just have questions about what we do from a secular perspective, I'm happy to work with you from that perspective. But if you are a Christian business owner or you are a small group leader and so forth, I want to partner with you because my passion is to create disciples, and disciples that were created for a purpose. And I want to partner with anybody out there that has a similar desire in their heart to work with us. So brushfires-digital.com. My email is jr@brushfires.group.
Terrific. Again, we'll have the links in the show notes. JR Rennie, thank you very much. Very interesting conversation. I have great respect for the work you're doing. And I so appreciate that you have found a way that brings you joy and that you're modeling that for the rest of us. So thanks, for those of you who are still here at the end of the episode, I am grateful to you for listening, for tuning in, for paying attention, for sticking around. And that probably means that you liked what you were hearing or watching enough to go to Apple, to go to Spotify, to go wherever you get your favorite podcast, click that 5-star button, give a little review, share the gift, let people know. That's all. Super easy. Or go to storypowermarketing.com, storypowermarketing.com, if you want to discover how to create content that helps people discover what you do so that you can share your passion and purpose and help them discover the journey that you can guide them on, whether it's through coaching or consulting or through some products and services. You can discover how to create content that draws people in as opposed to pushing them away. And if you can do that, you will sell more with greater joy and less headache and less hassle. And we try to help you do that at storypowermarketing.com. JR Rennie, thank you again for your great insight, for spending time with us, and best of luck on your continuing journey and for the people whom you serve. This is Tom Ruich. Thank you again for tuning in to the Story Power Marketing Show. We'll see you again down the road.
Thanks for listening to the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruich. If you liked what you heard today, visit storypowermarketing.com/resources, where you can sign up for Tom's entertaining, informative, must-read emails. Download free business building resources. and discover other opportunities to help you harness the power of storytelling. That's storypowermarketing.com/resources to help you captivate prospects, inspire them to act, and grow your business with greater ease and joy. Also, please remember to subscribe to the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruwitch and review it on iTunes or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.